Hello guys and welcome to the finals for the Bordeaux Regional over in Europe. Now this is going to be the first tournament of OP13 basically for all of the West, and I just wanted to go over this video just to show a couple of the things mainly from the ace side, and where I think like a couple of people have a bit of a misunderstanding about ace. Now I first of all just wanted to say that both of these guys have done extremely well in this tournament to make it this far. I'm not trying to rag on anyone. This is just completely meant to be a very educational video, and hopefully you guys can learn a little bit from this. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I'm going to be watching this one on 2 times speed just to make sure things are progressing normally, and I'm just going to go a little bit slower at some of the points where I want to explain some things. So first of all, we're going to be having the emu going first and the ace going second. Now, a lot of people do think that this is a dice roll matchup, but I think that there is opportunity to outplay on either side, and I do think that this is one thing that a lot of people are missing from the meta. So right here, we're going to see the ace is going to go for a Garp into a Izo. So they're going to be finding the Yamato here, which is a pretty ideal pick. Now he's going to be going into the Izo, and for me, I actually think this is a spot where he has, well, I would have done things a little bit differently. So right here, I do believe that he has the Mako in his hand, and I think if we have the Mako in our hand, we're pretty happy to just go ahead and play the Izo and then pass. Now, the main reason for this is because we want to be putting the Don under our leader, and this means that we can draw a card if they're going to end up attacking us. Now, I do think that using Double Searcher is okay if you don't have Marco, but in this case, because we do have Garp, what I personally would have done is just play the Garp and then aim to go 5-7 on the next turn. Like, missing Marco is not the end of the world. It does suck a little bit, but the good thing is that we still get the Don under our leader, which dissuades swings in the early game. So what we're going to be seeing here is the Emo is going to be swinging 6, and then we are going to end up taking this from the aces side. So I personally think that this was a little bit of a mistake. I think if he is swinging 8, it is okay for us to take it, but that extra leader skill that we get from having that extra life and taking it later on is extremely valuable, especially with this matchup being an extremely mathematically complicated matchup and one where every card counts. I think that small things like this do add up over the course of the game. So we're going to be seeing that he does have the Yamato for the next turn, but he is going to be missing the 8 cost event from his hand. Now, this is honestly quite unlucky from the ace player. However, one thing that I do want to let you guys know is this is why it is normally okay to kind of like hold some searches in the early game. We want to be doing a search, and we want to be drawing more of the cards. And this is also why I do like opening up with Otama sometimes. So what we actually see from this game is that the ace player ended up seeing both of the 8 cost and the 10 cost in their search, ended up taking the 10, which is correct in this case, by the way. But what ends up happening is you generally want to be drawing into one of the pieces and then searching for the other one. And having those extra couple of turns, including the Izo giving you the other draw, is extremely nice. Now, the thing that I want to say about this turn is that I personally would not have swung the Marco here. Now, the reason is because we want to force the opponent to end up using the Mars instead of the Nuzjuro, giving the opponent the ability to Nuzjuro here, get a clean trade into the Mako, and create a threat that can deal with the Yamato on the next turn is extremely, it is very punishing, to be honest. Like, I think this is pretty much a perfect Nuzjuro situation, and this is something where we can kind of think about holding things back from time to time. You can even see that the Emu player understands this 100%, understands that this is a perfect Nuzjuro spot, and this is a really good spot, such a good spot that they're actually going to use Double Searcher specifically to find the Nuzjuro. So you can imagine that if they had only the Mars here and the things were up, they ditch the extra card and they don't have to deal with the Nazjuro on the turn after. So this means that the Mako is going to be going for relatively free, and then the Emu player is going to be able to do another 1 or 2 6k swings before passing back. So here we're going to see that the ace is going to have a bookcase of cards in his hand, and unfortunately in there is not going to be the 8 cost. Now, I do think that this is something that is quite unfortunate. However, in these kind of situations, we basically just end up having to make some lemonade. So this is going to be a really good spot for us to use the Jozu. Now, playing Jozu is really good on this turn if we have double searcher, because we have the choice to either bounce back their Charlos, or we have the opportunity to bounce back double searcher and basically go +2 in hand from this Jozu. On top of this, the Jozu is also a really good card because it is not able to be dealt with by the opponent's 6 cost Mars. Now, this is extremely important when it comes to the late game stages, because they end up having to swing pretty awkwardly into it with Nazjuro, and it ends up being able to get some extra value in alongside our 10 cost blocker beard. So this is actually something that I think the ace player did quite well in this scenario. He does have the blocker beard in hand, but because the opponent has the War Fury up, he is deciding to go for the Roger instead to get that extra value on the extra swing. Now, what I will say though is I do believe he should have gone to the leader with this final swing. Now, the reason for this is because now you do have the Roger on the board, you have another one in hand or somewhere in the deck, and you know that your opponent does not run Stussy in their deck. Now, I'm not saying that Stussy is necessarily good in this scenario, but I think that understanding that this is going to be here for the rest of the game, I think this is when you start to say to your opponent, okay, I'm going to swing at your face and I'm going to make this a race because I did miss my 10 cost. You've got to remember that every turn that you miss the blocker beard, you are losing so much value, because the blocker beard basically saves you, like, first of all, it's basically free to play because you draw 2, trash 1, and then basically the card costs nothing. And then every turn it saves you 1 to 2 cards or gets a block or a life for the rest of the game. If this is the case, this is definitely a scenario where you want to be playing pretty aggressively, I would say. Now, what we're going to see here is we are going to see the Emu player just swinging 9. I don't hate getting out of this one. I think guarding that life is completely fine. And then we are going to be going ahead and using the new gate. It is a little bit of a shame that we still don't have the 8 cost event, because if we do have the 8 cost event, it would be quite nice to pump us up to 8k. But then, yeah, once again, we're just seeing he is trying to swing for board. I think in general, he is just going to guard it as if it were his life. But we also got to remember that in this case, the opponent is, you know, if they're given the choice, they will probably guard, but sometimes they just don't have the guard in hand. So if we can take them down, I still think that that's like our win con, right? Like, imagine if the Emu here is at like 1 or 2 life. They're crapping their pants because they're having to worry about this ace player just straight up all-inning them. And because the Roger is already on the field, it just means that there's so much more firepower that can come out. They can attach like 6 or 7 Dons to leader. They can attach Don to the blocker beards and the Roger and just make the math an absolute nightmare. So yeah, one thing that I will say though, I think that taking this 7k swing was a little bit greedy. I can understand that he wants to get to 0 for the Roger, but like I say, he's basically only using this Roger to contest board. So I think that if the Roger is going for life, I can understand, like especially if the opponent's on 1 or 2 life, like I say. But the Emu player is still not really under any pressure. So I would have guarded that one and then, you know, force the Nazjuro to go at the Roger, in which case we can just end up getting like just 2K'ing out of it, or giving like a plus 2K if they minus the new gate as well. And that just gives us more time to kind of get to work and build up. Because if we were on 2 life coming into the next turn, we have another blocker beard. We can just play a blocker beard, just swing 8-15 again. And depending on their blocks, we can probably even swing another one of the blocker beards, get another life out of them, bring them down to 1 or 2. But yeah, this is kind of just like a lot of things that are adding up over a game, and then it just kind of becomes like, when there's a lot of things, it all just becomes hypothetical at that point. Okay, so coming over to his turn, and here is another thing. So what he's going to do on this turn is he's going to be going ahead and playing a 9 beard and instead of a blocker beard. Now, the problem with this is that you generally want to play the 9 beard when you're going for game on the next turn. Because what's happening is you're going to be 9k and really tanky for this turn. For the next turn, you're not going to have the same defensive capabilities, and it won't be as easy for you to survive. And then for the next turn, if you do have the blocker beard, you have the option for the blocker beard to either be attacker or, in this case, likely a defender. So this is just something to always keep in mind. You generally want to play 2 blocker beard before you play the 9 beard. You normally want to play like 1 or 2 9 beards at this point, and then basically just go for it on the crackback. So here, perfect by Thomas. He's just going to be going 8-8-8, just draining cards from hand, and he can see the math. Like, you can see at this point, this is going to take 1 card. This is going to take 1 card. It's just completely clockwork at this time. And these guys have played this matchup hundreds of times, I would imagine, and they know exactly what the swings are going to be looking like on this turn. So basically, the ace understands that. Well, in my opinion, I feel like the ace is just not living another turn, right? Because we know that the emu's just going to go a lot of 8s, and then just going to play another 10 cost, pass, and then we can just math if we do live on the next turn. But because we only have 1 blocker beard, it is likely going to be quite hard to live on the crackback. Back over to the ace's turn. So the main thing here is that the ace can see that the player on the right has a lot of cards in hand. So they're probably thinking, okay, I cannot go for turn. But the main thing to identify is that this is actually a lethal scenario on the side of the emu player. Like, they just have enough on board, right? Like, they just need to swing 5 times in this scenario, and then they'll be able to live. Like, we understand that we did not find the Marco here. Like, I actually think double Marco, actually, it probably gets us out of this. Like, there is the worry about us like drawing bricks, but basically the main thing about this spot is that we have 4 big guys. So what I would actually do here, if I was like going for it, well, I think I would identify, yeah, this is the turn, I've got to go for it. I would actually go ahead and I would swing 10 first with the Newgate. You don't need to start with swings that are like super huge, right? Like, we don't want to swing completely even, like 13-13. Off the top of my head, it seems like this is, like the rough math for going for game. We can actually just start with 10, because 10 is very likely going to get a life. And if 10 doesn't get a life, then we can dial it back, and then we can use this GARP as a backup attacker. And always remember that every single hit before the final one is just to extract value. Because if all we're going to do is 13-13-13, he's going to just take, nothing to worry about, and then he just guards. Oh, I'm just going to guard like a 9k on the end. But if we take 6k out of his hand at the start, and then we dial it back, and then we swing a couple of 9s, then we actually are able to extract extra value. Like, already off the top of my head, that's like another like what is it? I think that's another like 3k on top. So yeah, 2 or 3k on top. So yeah, just think about that for going for lethal. But yeah, he's gonna make a little bit of like a not really going for lethal. He's just gonna play a little bit defensive with the rad beam. Unfortunately, double rad beam would probably keep him alive here. But yeah, he'll just be like, I think he's just ends up being like one card off living, one or two cards off living. So yeah, those early hits and those two missed leader skills, they really add up over the course of the game. So always keep that in mind. That like even though we may miss things throughout the game, there are always opportunities to kind of like bring back the game no matter what. So yeah, we're just gonna see the Emu knows that he has lethal. Yep, two cards here. So this is just going to be the final two cards, and then block, and then he has 0 cards in hand, so a 6k swing gets through. Oh yeah, the rad beam. So technically, he ends up being he ends up getting it. So very well done by the emo player. And congratulations to both of these players for making it to the finals. Yep, these players both played extremely well for this tournament. I don't want to rag on either of them. I think they're both fantastic players. And you got to remember as well that when you're on stream in the finals, there's a lot of nerves going on. So, no one's going to make like, well, some people do, but a lot of people may make some different plays from each other. But this is purely just meant to be an educational video. So, yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.